A common question I always ask myself is, what is faith? Faith is a word that we throw around all the time. You gotta have faith. You gotta have faith. You gotta have faith. But have you ever sat back and thought, what is faith? Hebrews 11:1 tells us this: faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith is hoping in the Lord. Although you don't see him, you know he's ever present. Although you don't feel him, you know he's there. Faith is hoping and waiting in the Lord. But to take it one step further, have you guys ever considered what authentic faith is? All through Scripture, we have examples of people having authentic faith, and they were able to do amazing things. When I think of authentic faith, I define it as faith that isn't dependent upon your circumstances. Faith that isn't shaken just when the hard times come. Faith that will withstand the storms because they know if they wait on the Lord, great things will happen. In my life, the greatest example of authentic faith have been my parents. They're the ones that introduced me to the Lord. They're the ones that made me love him. Through them, I learned my faith. And I never had a better example of authentic faith than one day in August when Houston was going through probably one of the worst tragedies it's ever been through. I live in Dallas, so it wasn't going to affect me directly, but Hurricane Harvey was going to hit Houston in August. And one thing about Houstonians is that every time they hear the word hurricane, they kind of don't believe it's going to hit because it almost never does. You know, I lived in Houston my whole life until now, and it never hit. So when they were hyping up Hurricane Harvey, it didn't really bother us. I wasn't really worried about my parents because, you know, like, it never hits. And so I kind of just shrugged it off. I didn't really look at the news. I didn't really pay attention to it. I didn't really track it because it never hits. And I remember one night, I just got home from work, and I got a phone call from one of my best friends, and he said, "Hey, are your parents okay?" I think it was the night before Harvey was going to hit or was about to hit. And I asked him, why wouldn't I be okay? And he said, "You haven't looked at the news?" No, I haven't looked at the news. And I was scrolling down my phone, and I saw that the governor of Texas was saying, hey, if you didn't evacuate, get ready for a long night. And to write down your personal details somewhere so they can identify you. When I heard that, or when I read that, I started freaking out. I was like, wait, so you're telling me it's really going to hit? You're telling me that the storm is coming? And I remember calling my mom, like, you know, hoping, you know, like, hey, are you guys prepared? Calling my mom, wanting to ask her if everything was good. And she didn't answer. I went ahead and called my dad. It was about 9 o'clock. He didn't answer. I went ahead and called my sister. She didn't answer. And I started freaking out, like, why aren't my parents answering? And I started thinking the worst. You know, like when you overthink things, and I just thought that something was really wrong. I waited an hour, I didn't get a call back. I waited another hour, didn't get a call back. It wasn't until about 11 o'clock I finally received a call from my mom. And I answered the phone. I said, "Mom, how dare you not answer me? You know, like, I'm so worried about you. I'm looking at the news. I'm looking at everything they're saying. Like, it's going to be bad. Why wouldn't you answer? What's going on?" And the words my mom told me would resonate with me for the rest of my life. My mom said these words to me. She said, "Son, I was sleeping." Son, I was sleeping. I'm out here freaking out. I'm out here worried. And she said, "Son, I was sleeping." And I said, "Mom, how in the world could you be sleeping at a time like this? How could you be sleeping when the biggest storm of your life is about to hit? How can you be sleeping?" She said, "Son, whatever happens, we're in God's hands." That really hit me. Because my mom was about to go through the biggest storm of her life, one of the biggest natural disasters of her life, and she had enough faith to sleep because she knew whatever happened, it was in God's hands. To me, that is the greatest example of authentic faith. No matter what storms are heading your way, no matter what storms you're currently living in today, have hope. Don't let your faith waver just because you're going through storms. Hurricane Harvey was a huge deal for Houston. It was a huge disaster. But yet my mom was sleeping through the storm because she believed that God had everything in control. Daniel, when he was thrown into the lion's den, he was able to sleep with the lions because he knew God was in control. When Daniel's friends were thrown in the furnace, they were able to become fireproof because they knew God was in control. When David was facing Goliath, he was able to charge bravely because he knew God was in control. And when my mom was facing Hurricane Harvey, she was able to lay her head on her pillow because she knew God was in control. Guys, it's time that we start practicing authentic faith. It's time that we start hoping in God, knowing and believing that no matter what storms are headed our way, we have a God that walks on water. Hebrews 11 says, faith is hope, and we must have hope and faith that God has our back forever.